Hello guys, this is Gio Cadalzo coming back to you with our first ever house tour vlog. Not only will this be fun, this will be a little bit educational. Let's go! First things off, here is our garage. It contains our laundry, our guest room, and our car. It might seem to you that the garage is clean at first sight, but there are subtle signs that it is actually dirty, such as the car being covered up in dust and the junk left over by my dad. Which brings me over to the first takeaway of Module 1, which is about subversion. Subversion can not only be used to tell hidden lessons, but also to show the social and political realities of life in countries like the Philippines. In the module paper that we did, we used two materials, the genre of folk tales and the indie film and the Archangel, Aoyayi sa Dilim. Both materials use subversion to tell hidden messages, telling one moral lesson while subverting another, forcing readers to read between the lines or watch between the scenes, and making them realize that protagonists are not often perfect. However, folktales can still end on a happy note. As for the film itself, the supernatural forces that Ella fights in the story reflect the grim realities of life in the Philippines, such as corruption and the drug war. Moving on back to the garage, this car's current form and function was not decided, or rather set in stone. It was formed and created by people. Which brings me to the second takeaway of Module 2, which is that the concept of nation is constantly changing and is being redefined over the course of history. All sorts of people participate in it. Historians, writers, poets, the common people like you and me. Whether that be in the form of a poem about the happiness of the nation or a short film about not forgetting our history, all of these materials share one common lesson, that the concept of nation can be changed and redefined, and that change lies in us. Moving on to the third takeaway of Module 3 about the concepts of gender and sexuality. Not only do concepts like these can be changed and redefined, it can also be built and improved upon. Nowhere is this more evident than in the LGBTQ community. Not only is there a third gender now to represent all the gays and lesbians of the world, there are also new letters being added to the acronym as the community expands. Think of it like this car again. While people like us can decide its current form and function, we can also improve and build upon it according to the demands of the people. To correlate this to the LGBTQ, the community has always accommodated and changed with the times, including more people and making sure that the community is a more inclusive place for all. With that being said, this concludes the first part of our vlog. Let us move on to the second floor. Now we are at the second floor of our house, which consists of the living room and the kitchen. And this is our couch. Which brings me to the second part of this vlog, which is my first takeaway on the class lecture regarding narrator points of view, which is that stories can be viewed from different perspectives. Think of it like watching a movie on this couch. Watching it from one part has you see the movie from one angle. However, if you keep moving to a different part of the couch, you'll see it from an entirely different angle. Narrator points of view work like that. The first person point of view has the narrator tell the story as a character. The second person point of view has the narrator tell the story and refer to the reader as you, making them feel as though they are a part of the story. Finally, the third person point of view has the narrator refer to the characters as he, she, or they. Regardless of the perspectives used, they offer different views of the same story. Much like moving to different parts of the couch, as you see different angles of the same movie. Now let us move on to the kitchen. brings me to the second takeaway on the class lecture regarding characters, which is that each character has a role to play in the story. Think of it like the kitchen utensils we all use for cooking and eating food. The spoons and forks are used for eating. The knives over there are used for cutting the food. And the plates and the bowls over here are where we put on the food. Similarly, characters play a role in stories. They can be the protagonist, the antagonist, or a supporting character. They can also be round or flat characters. They can change throughout the course of the story, or they may not even change at all. Moving on to my third takeaway on the class lecture regarding personas in poetry, we often develop different parts of ourselves in response to particular situations. Think of it like this knife. It is a useful tool, but it's also a harmful tool. Similarly, personas can be both beneficial and harmful to us, as while it allows us to deal with dangerous situations, it can also make us lose a part of ourselves, whether the situation is resolved at the end or not. Now let us move on to the third floor. Now we are at the third floor, consisting of 3 rooms. My room, my brother's room, and my parents' room. First, let's start in my room. This room expresses a part of myself, which brings me to my first contribution about the insights, which is that I develop different personas to deal with different situations. Look at this room. I use a different part of myself to when I'm in this room. Similarly, I use different personas of myself to deal with different situations. Now let us move on to my brother's room. My brother's room has underwent changes over the course of its construction, which brings me to my second contribution, which is that change is always constant. It is always there, and it always comes in unexpected ways. It does not only come in the form of definitions of and redefinitions of concepts of nation and gender, but also changes in someone's personal life, whether that be a graduation ceremony or the death of a loved one. Now let us move on to the final room, my parents' room, which brings me the final contribution that these insights have yielded is that change is not exclusive. Look at this room. This room is owned by my parents. However, there are times where me and my brother often stay and sleep here at our own leisure, which means that this room is not exclusive to them at all. Similarly, change is not exclusive to those who hold power. It can be used by common people like you and me to change the system. We can get to decide when times of change come and where the winds of change blow, whether that be in the right direction or the wrong one. Now let us move on to the 4th floor. Now we are at the 4th floor, which is the roof deck. And this brings us to the final part of our vlog, which is the conclusion. I have learned much about the concepts of change and personas, and I also learned of its applications in literary works such as poems, short stories, and movies. I have also learned the importance of defining and redefining the concepts of nation and gender, and the importance of understanding stories from different points of view, much like this veranda, which offers you different points of view of the same big skyline. Finally, the insights I have gained from these lessons have helped me in my life as both as an individual and as a member of society, even after my academic life in DLSU. With that being said, this ends our vlog. Stay subscribed for the next one. This is Gio JCI Cadalzo signing off.